Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Dialogue Podcast. I'm really excited about this one because I think it's one of the most life applicable pieces that we've ever put out. So today we are talking about rest, and not just about when you're on a vacation or taking a break, but how it actually applies to the way that you live your life every single day. So I hope you get a lot out of this. Take a listen. All right, Greg Ford, welcome to your podcast.
It's our podcast.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're on it, so it feels weird welcoming you.
You're just as on it as I am.
To your own. Welcome to our podcast.
That's right. It's
dialogue.
a dialogue. It's a dialogue here.
Not a monologue.
No.
All right, so this is kind of a fun episode once we get into it here, because we are getting ready to head into a period of rest ourselves. You're taking a few weeks off. We're getting a little bit of a break.
Yep.
We definitely take advantage of that as a family.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that, I just want to check in with you and say, how's your week going? What's new?
Week is going good. Interesting, right? Last night we had a little family drama.
We did indeed. It was.
We were sitting there having a conversation. I'm trying to remember what we were talking about.
I think we were talking about hiring a new position.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And our son, like a scene from a movie, like an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
It really did have major Shyamalan vibes.
He walks up the steps with a head
sopping
wound.
wet.
Sopping wet with a head wound, like
a hole in the middle of his forehead and blood running down his face. It really had major horror movie vibes.
Yeah, and the fact that he has autism means that the explanation was a bit fuzzy.
And he was dead calm, which was also weird.
Dead calm.
Are you okay?
So he just stood there for a minute, and you were like, buddy, are you okay? Which then made me look twice, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's bleeding from his head. What's going on?
Profusely.
He had a pretty big gash. And he thought he was in trouble, right? Which was kind of pathetic. We're like, dude, you're not in trouble.
Totally not in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then we're trying to piece together the story, and you're dipping into your crime junkie expertise to trying to find the crime retrace scene. The steps, follow the blood trail.
Yeah.
To find out what happened, but
eventually we pieced together that he fell in the kitchen and hit his head on the countertop, and it's a stone countertop, so I mean it just split him right open. And then
he must have tried to get in the shower because there was stuff on the shower. There was blood on the shower door. So he must have tried to wash it off.
Yeah,
or something.
So he went and took a shower instead of coming and telling us that his head was split open.
Yeah.
So ended up we kind of had to divide and conquer, because at this point it's like
almost bedtime. Yeah.
So you're waiting home for Ella to get home from an event and to put Miles to bed, and I take Hudson to kind of
Miles
a close
was shook.
to home.
Miles was shook. I had a hard time getting him to sleep. He was stemming a little bit from that.
Yeah, I'm sure he was worried.
But you took him.
Took him in. It was all the way down to the skull. If you're queasy, sorry guys on this one. Just skip the intro. But we, he took it down to the skull. It was pretty gnarly.
But he soldiered up.
It was actually worse than I even originally thought it was. When we got there, he had to have internal and external stitches to hold it together. Had quite a few, but was a total champ, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Like a year ago at this time, he would not have had the reaction that he did. He was so great, had wonderful self-control. The only time that he kind of fought us off a little bit was getting the numbing gel in the wound, which of course it really stings at first. But the minute that was done, he apologized to the nurses and.
And didn't he apologize to you on the way? Because he's like, hey, Mom, when I hit my head, I used a cuss word.
He did, yeah. He confessed in the waiting room, Mom, I'm really sorry. I said a bad word when I hit my head. Bud, it's okay. Sometimes I say bad words when I hit myself too.
Oh.
I was like, we say sorry and we learn from our mistakes and move on.
Okay, and now I see where he's picked all this up. I was always not sure about that. The interesting thing about our son is he has numbered cuss words. So if
13. He says there are 13.
He said there are 13 cuss words. So if he hears a cuss word, he'll say, "They said number 11." And I've never asked.
It's completely arbitrary.
Every number.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so who knows what number he said, but he confessed, which is a step in the right direction, right?
It is.
That's biblical.
Yep. And he apologized to the nurses. I mean, he really didn't like freak out. He didn't lash out at them or anything, but he was just trying to get us to not hold him because I'm sure it really hurt. But the minute it was done,
he's in foreign territory with a head wound, man. He didn't know what to do.
So he went out in the hall and told the nurse there, the nurses and I got in a huge fight. I had to restrain my mom. But I'm really sorry. My anger was very big.
How did the nurses respond?
Oh, they thought he was hilarious.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So they were really great.
Well, he might have actually felt like he had an audience, and was, because he's getting to that spot now. He'll perform a little bit if somebody thinks he's funny or whatever. At times he'll turn it on. He was
pretty meek and mild overall. I think once the adrenaline wore off. Plus, it was hours. I mean, we didn't get home till midnight-ish. Yeah. So it was hours after bedtime at that point. I think he was pretty wiped out and just
How are you doing? How are you doing with all that? You wiped out.
I'm good. I'm a little tired. I've got coffee, hidden down here next to my my water on the table. I'm a little tired, but other than that, no worse for wear. I mean, that was definitely one of the easier ER trips I've had with our boys, considering. We've had a few. They're not the most, like, we don't have any major broken bones or anything. Ella broke her arm when she was little. She's the only one, right? Neither of the boys have had broken bones, just stitches. I know, right? Knock on the
wood.
table.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've had a lot more surgeries and stuff with you than anybody else.
I'm the worst kid in our family.
You're the crash test dummy in our house.
No question.
So, anyways.
Yeah.
You look nice today.
I would like to return the compliment. You look beautiful.
I am wearing all of the emotions today, I guess. I don't know. They all kind of run together. Did I buy you that? No, but you suggested it.
Okay.
You saw that I was eyeballing it.
Okay.
At Akira. Shout out to one of my favorite places to shop. And you were like, you really should get that.
That's snazzy.
And I didn't, and then I regretted it, and so I went back later.
That's the kind of thing I would pick out for you because I'm pretty sure you would like.
Yes, for sure. I am definitely like button up and pants, menswear vibes. I kind of like that. I don't know if I'd full scale call this menswear, but I like sets.
I would not have defined it like that.
As menswear?
No,
not at all.
No,
it's really not. But I do like
I'm saying I wouldn't define your taste as menswear.
I mean, I like a good 3-piece suit. I just can't find any to fit me because I'm too tall. Maybe I should just buy men's suits and tailor them.
Okay.
No? Okay. All right, moving on.
No.
Anyways, by the way, thanks for using the word snazzy because I like that.
You know what? I didn't even know I said it.
Really?
Did I say that?
You did. You said I looked snazzy.
Oh.
I appreciate it. That's a very me word. You know how to like make my heart pitter patter.
Yes.
All right. So moving forward, you know what we're going to talk about today?
What?
I did just say it a minute ago.
You said about taking time off?
Talking about rest.
Rest.
Yes.
Yes. Good.
So
good conversation.
I think that's probably an appropriate one since you're heading into this season. A lot of people would probably think like, what is there to even talk about with rest, right? You just go take a nap, take a break.
But I actually get asked a lot about rest.
Really? Do you? Okay. What are some like common questions, or do people just ask you like, how do I rest well? What do they say?
Yeah. Well, people will come to me because they're having a hard time finding rest. And so people ask me how I rest, or, they're not getting rested. Yeah. Like you said, the first thing when you hear that, you think about a nap or you think about a good night of sleep,
or take a day off and just kind of chill.
Yeah, that's certainly part of it. But I think it's pretty common that it's not that simple. Mm-hmm. So what's going on? In fact, my man Scott is over here. He and I yesterday were meeting with some leaders from some other churches around our city, and we shared some stuff and then opened it up for Q&A, and that was one of the questions. So actually, it's a little top of mind right now.
So it's fresh for you.
And I didn't want to over talk because there were other people on the panel, and I had a bunch of thoughts I didn't share.
All right.
So here we are.
Look at this.
Come on. Sometimes God shows off.
Serendipitous. I'll tell you what. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So before we do dive into that, a little bit of backstory for you and I. This has been an ongoing topic for us because there have definitely been seasons of time where we were really not good at this at all. And I think we've made great strides in that area by being really intentional about it. So I think that's something we can touch on a little bit as well.
Why don't you talk about like our pattern that we got into for a little bit, where when we weren't resting, if you can think of that or whatever, you know, what do you remember kind of how that would go down?
Well, sure. I think kind of one of the not funny really, but kind of overarching themes was we kept telling ourselves, like, we're just going to get through the season and then it'll slow down.
Yeah.
And we would say those kinds of things all the time. And finally we realized that's just an outright lie. It's not going to slow down. It's not like life isn't suddenly, it's like, oh, you get over this hump and then we're just going to cruise. No, it's not. You're going to pick a new mountain to climb and you're going to go do something else. And life doesn't stop. It keeps coming at you. You keep having random things. You know, I thought last night I was going to have a little bit of time to sit and sketch some things out for a different project. And instead I was in the ER, right? Because that's life with kids. So I think getting that under control was a big thing for us because
so you're just saying getting your expectations that there's not some magical season where
you're just
going
catch
to
a
be
break.
you're going to have to
we'll catch a break.
Figure out how to build this system into your life.
Yeah, it's like if you don't intentionally put rest into your schedule, it won't happen because it's not going to just come about naturally. Your schedule's going to just keep filling up. Things are just going to keep coming along. So I think that was step one, right? Realizing you have a problem is always step one. So I think that was it for us. But I
think also,
what are some other things?
Well, I was going to say also, I think what would happen is instead of resting proactively, we would wait till we were completely and totally exhausted.
Yes.
So it's almost like going like, hey, I'm going to drive my car till it runs out of gas on the side of the road. Then I'm going to call AAA to tow me to a gas station. Then I'll fill up.
Right. And you're like, or you could go when you have like a third or quarter of a tank left and go fill up instead of doing what I do in real life, which is wait until you're on a hard E and then go to the gas station.
When that gas light's on and then you're, hoping, okay, well, I'm going to still try to push it 15 miles and maybe you make it to the gas station, maybe you don't, maybe you're on the side of the road like that.
But you get there and you're running on fumes. Yep.
So that sort of plan, if you kind of take it and apply it to your life, am I resting once I'm to the place it's now become a complete and total need versus I'm seeing this as part of the rhythm of my life, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me give some thoughts on rest. The first thing is rest starts in the brain. It starts in the mind. So let's talk about before even like my body rests and all of that, which is, yes, absolutely, your body needs to rest. A lot of, I think when people are saying, man, I'm having a hard time resting, and a nap didn't get it done, and a good night's sleep didn't get it done, and a day off didn't get it done, or a month off or 2 weeks off didn't get it done. Why am I struggling like this, and what do I do about it? So it starts with in the brain and the mind. So if we think about like soul rest, which by the way, that's in the Bible, right? You'll find rest for your souls. Come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I'll give you rest for your soul. All right. So if we define soul as mind, will, and emotion, okay, let's put those in order, by the way. I would think, although it's hard to completely separate your brain, your mind, your willpower, and emotion, and to just totally separate them. They're intertwined, but let's think of them a little bit separate. I think probably the progression is mind, emotion, will. Yeah, sometimes you go mind and have your will and then your emotion follows. Okay, what we don't want to do is put emotion in front of the mind completely, right? To where now all my decisions are based on my feelings or my emotions. But you think about the relationship to those, finding rest in there, I think starts here, starts in your head. And for you to do a few things. So here's a few pieces of advice. I think in your mind, at some point, you have to come to clarity around the tension between how important your life is and how unimportant your life is.
Okay. Break that down.
Yeah. So when you think about your purpose. Mm-hmm. You think about your passion, right? Those are connected to my life matters. And the work I do matters. If you feel like I don't like my job, I don't think I'm making any difference in the world, that's going to affect your passion for life because you feel like I don't really have a purpose. I'm just taking up oxygen. Mm-hmm. I'm just making this widget. I'm just whatever. I'm taking up space. And so that's not a great life. So in a sense, like you need a sense that like what I'm doing really matters. It's important. I'm making a difference. It's good that I'm here, right? The Apostle Paul talks about that when he's like, he's like, you know, when he thought about living and dying, he's like, you know, if I die, you know, to die, ultimately I'll go to be with God and that'll be great. He's like, but if I'm here, I get to serve you and do this noble work. And he goes, I kind of feel like I'm supposed to keep doing this, but you know, whatever. When I die and I'll go be with God. I think you have this purpose, a sense of purpose in your head that what I'm doing matters. Mm-hmm. But if you think it matters so stinking much, you start to make it, you know, your ambition becomes grandiosity. You start to think it all depends on me. Now you have like the weight of the world on you. Mm-hmm. And I really don't think that that's God's intention for our lives.
No, definitely not.
I don't think that's the message of the gospel, that we are supposed to walk around feeling like the well-being of the world and the salvation of the world and everything is dependent on us. And if I don't nail it today, dude, people are doomed, right? In a sense, like my work matters, but my work isn't like so big that I can't rest from it. If I really think that if I become a little too self-important,
yeah, that's
right?
The real heart of it.
If I become like that responsibility, it's really on me. How the heck would I ever rest?
Yeah.
So if I go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, like, you put this God-sized responsibility on yourself.
You're switching roles with the Almighty,
exactly
dude.
Right. And
you're
that's
switching
not yours
roles.
to do. That's not yours.
You don't want his job.
Right.
You know, you're not built for his job.
No. And I think some people do that in some form or another. And so when you get that in check,
yes,
and you have a healthy perspective on yourself where you go, I do have important work. There is something that is mine to do. One of my like all-time heroes, I love Suzanne Stabile. She's just like, Suzanne, you changed my life if you're listening.
We got to get her on a dialogue.
We've got to get her on here. I just love her. But one of the most profound but simple things she ever said that, you know, that really impacted me was she talked about just finding what is yours to do and then do that well. And it's like, that can sound overly simple until you really digest what that means. Because instead of taking on the weight of the world and putting everything on my shoulders, no, what is actually mine to do? What am I gifted for? What am I passionate about? What are my responsibilities? I'm just going to do what is actually mine and take the rest off of myself and put it where it should be. And I think you really highlighted something that particularly, I think a lot of Christians or people of faith have this issue where they take on the weight of what is actually God's to do and not yours. Yeah. And so once you let that go, all of a sudden you get a lot of clarity about what is yours, and you get a new lightness in your life that allows you to actually take rest instead of feeling like if I hop off the hamster wheel for 1 second, it's costing everyone around me dearly. And that's, how could you ever rest if you've got that mindset? God
has gifted you and built you and wired you to do your job, not his.
Hoo, hoo, hoo. Say it louder.
So you got to be careful with that, right? Have evangelistic fervor to reach people with the good news, but you are not the savior.
That's right.
Okay? Even language we use, if we're not careful, soul winner.
Yeah. Woo.
Greg's a soul winner. Shaylyn's a soul winner. Well, what if you're taking a vacation?
Not out winning souls.
We're not winning souls. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying throttle back on evangelistic fervor. I think, man, be salt and light. Mm-hmm. You know, go out and be a catalyst for change. Be a human example of the body of Christ in your world and of the gospel.
Right.
preach the gospel, sometimes use words. I'm trying to remember who said that, Spurgeon or one of these guys, or D.L. Moody. Okay. My point is, you have to sit in that tension between what I'm doing matters and it's what I'm doing is much bigger than me. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the weight of the world. If you don't figure that out and learn to sit in that tension, no vacation, no hobby, no amount of time off, okay, will ever rest you because you didn't settle it in your brain.
That particular example that you just used, I think, is really powerful, because that is an example of where some of that language really does matter, because you can go from feeling like it's my responsibility to lead a life that is a wonderful example to other people to follow, or to look to and see an example of Christ's love, those kinds of things. And you can accidentally twist it into something where now you feel responsible for overriding the free will of others, and if you're a soul winner, and now it's
you got to close the sale.
I've got to close the sale.
I got to be ABC. Always be closing.
Yeah, I've got to sell you Jesus. No, that's
or
not
be his
how
lawyer.
This works.
And he's on the he's really over here on the witness stand, and the jury box is the world, and I gotta get him. I have to make sure that he doesn't get convicted.
Yeah.
Or that I convince the jury that he's innocent, or who he is, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Again, you got to hold these things in tension. Don't click off of here and go, this guy says we're not supposed to preach the gospel.
That's not it at all.
No, that's absolutely not what I'm saying. I've given my life to it.
Yeah. But I mean, do scriptures not say that his loving kindness is? I'm sure I don't want to.
His kindness leads us to repentance.
Yeah, if we believe that his character is naturally a draw, which I believe it is. Mm-hmm. I believe that his love, his patience, his mercy, his goodness, his compassion, all of these things, everything that's good in the world that we attribute to him, okay, if that's true, then that is magnetic. And so if you're just living it out, that will draw people to you. You don't have to go try to sell him or defend him in such a way that it's like he's a hard sell. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and again, the whole thing back to the point about rest. So our whole point is to get some of these realities that it's not that my work doesn't matter, because it does. Whether it's the work I'm doing or work other people are doing, right? Like that what you're doing, whether you're teaching or you're leading or you're a manager, or you're an individual contributor, or you're an artist, okay, whatever it is, like
your
that
work
matters in the world.
Bringing something into the world that matters.
But okay, it's not the end of the world. It's not bigger than the world. It's not the weight of the world.
That's right.
So all of that, I've got to sit there and have an appropriate amount of responsibility and passion and purpose, without it becoming an obsession that I'm unable to let go of in the proper time. And so one of the red flags that maybe I have this a little out of whack is your inability to put it down.
Yeah.
Your inability to step away and walk away, because maybe that fervor and passion has sort of crossed over into frantic obsession.
Yeah, that's a really good tell, Greg.
And so that it's got to start there. If you, there's no prescription I can give you of time and even method of rest that's going to override that. It has to start there. So whatever that work looks like for every individual, they've got to figure that out, and they got to work on that. That's so there's that. And it goes in your mind. And I would just encourage people, talk that out, process that out, write it out, think it out. What does it look like for you to live not only your vacation or your time off, but your entire life sitting in that tension, in that balance, so to speak, between those two ideas that seem to be counter to one another, that something's really important, but it's not as important. Don't make it too important, but don't make it unimportant. And again, theologically, philosophically, our work is important because we're made in the image of God. He's given us certain gifts that are in alignment with his image, and to do that, to help people, to be a blessing to the world, to honor God and serve people. So whatever that looks like, whether it's doing something with your hands, doing something with your mind, doing something with your heart, whatever those things are, that is that contribution. But frankly, people were doing it before you got here. They'll be doing it after you're gone.
That's right.
I was at this thing, and one of the guys was talking about basically in a couple generations, pretty much all of us will not be remembered, like in terms of our names.
Right.
Even like, okay, let's do this exercise. What are your great-grandparents' names? Great-grandparents.
Okay, so on my dad's side, his dad's parents were George and Edith. His mom's parents were Luetta and Fred Brindley. On my mom's side, gosh, I don't know on my mom's side actually.
Okay.
And I think honestly I'm probably the exception to the rule, being able to remember them on my dad's side, because I had some of those family members alive up until I was like graduating from high school. Kind of an anomaly that a lot of people don't have their great grandparents around. So yeah.
So,
I actually don't. I know some aunts and uncles, like great aunts and uncles on the other side, but.
And that's just great grandpa and grandma, right? Like,
yeah.
So like I know
like greats, gosh.
On my mom's side, on my mom's side, Grandpa Vineyard was a great grandpa. I don't know anybody else. I don't know anybody on Grandpa Turner's side. The Ford side, I don't know. I've heard a couple stories about my grandpa's dad.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I don't know their name. Now, when I say that, okay, the point I'm making is we are pretty in tune with our families, and we could pull a few names where our batting average is pretty low. Mm-hmm. So that sort of highlights a reality. Most people listening to this are probably somewhere near the same boat, and if they're not, they are probably the anomaly. How does that make you feel, right? Well, there was a time in my life when I probably was a little more leaning toward the pathological responsibility. Everything's my responsibility. Everybody driving down the road and who's hurting is my responsibility. Everybody in our community that doesn't, have the food that they need is my responsibility. Every marriage that's not on the same page is my responsibility. Where I was carrying that more, the idea of being forgotten in a couple generations used to kind of haunt me a little bit, and even create this sense of drive, like, man, I've got to do something so noteworthy and so memorable that there's like George Washington, Albert Einstein, and Martin Luther King, and Greg Ford. You know what I'm saying? I got to be a great American, Now, I wouldn't have said it like that if you'd asked me that. I would have deflected and said, no. But come on, if I'm being honest, there was something in me that's like, I wasn't that grandiose in my thinking, but it was like, no, I need to do. I feel like there's greatness in me, and I need to do something great.
You felt responsible to do something with it.
Okay, so my point is, at one point it would have been haunting. I find it now so freeing, so freeing, because what I'm able to do is stay in my lane, thrive in my lane, but serve who's in front of me. This message doesn't have to be in the Smithsonian. If the sermon from Sunday, I'm trying to put this thing in the Smithsonian, okay, then I think you make the error. You try to be overly epic instead of going, how does this apply to our world and the people who are here right now? I want this to be the most helpful thing I can come up with. It's probably will be forgotten in a couple generations. It'll probably be forgotten in a month. Yeah. My point is, it allows you to be present, honor the moment, and then when it's time to put it down, put it stinking down.
That's right.
And go rest.
Yeah.
So I think like a lot of these things, like, yeah, you want your life to be great, but man, be careful that you don't have this gnawing sense that your life's not big enough, that you're not hitting it out of the park enough, that it's got to be better, it's got to be bigger, it's got to be more memorable. Dude, your awesome great-granddaughter, okay, because they're going to be awesome coming from your lineage, Shaylyn, may not remember Shaylyn Ford and what all she pulled off, right?
That's all right.
Be totally free in that. Don't let that make you slide into like, I'm insignificant, I don't matter. No, you totally matter. This matters. This conversation matters. This is helping someone right now. Mm-hmm. What we go from here and do matters. These buildings we're building matter.
Yeah.
These leaders we're training matter. These problems we're solving matter. This content that we're articulating and crystallizing, it matters.
That's right.
But let's not make it too important.
That's so good.
If we can figure that out, and if the listener can figure that out, you've begun to rest.
Yes.
Mind, will, emotion. Mm-hmm. Mind, when that starts to seep into your pores and into your bloodstream, now what does that do to your emotion?
Yeah, it skyrockets in response. Yep.
Now you start to experience peace.
Yep.
And not just peace on your day off, not just peace on your sabbatical or your vacation, peace
in your day-to-day
on a
life.
daily
That's
basis.
Right.
So guess what? Now I'm not rolling into vacation totally
laid out dead,
calling AAA to come pick me up. Right?
Right.
So you're going in even more emotionally rested.
Yeah.
Your soul is not completely and totally depleted. So now I can do things on my vacation that actually I enjoy. I've got a little bit of juice versus laying there, wrung out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a quick touch related to what you were just talking about, because it's kind of in a similar vein, and you've talked about this a lot even recently within the church, is the idea of finding your identity in productivity. Mm-hmm. Like people who, because it's not just this compulsion to feel like I need to be doing something big, but even just like I need to be producing something at all times, right? And so then when you try to shut that off and you feel like your worth is coming from your ability to produce something, it's really impossible for you to go on vacation and actually rest but I'm not doing anything. I'm not putting anything out here right now. And so...
Okay, so if you start digging into that, you start going into that room and flashing the light, there's some stuff there. Because what's there? Well, why do I feel a need to be productive? Okay. Again, I'm not speaking against productivity.
No,
but what
of
is the
course not.
compulsion of productivity? Okay. Productivity gives me some sort of tangible evidence of my value.
That's right. Now I have proof. I have receipts.
It gives me receipts of my value. So what I'm doing is I'm looking to productivity to fill a void in my life or to answer a question in my life of how much value do I have? Mm-hmm. Or I have a vision for something, and if I'm not productive, that vision's not going to come to fruition. And if that vision doesn't come to fruition, back to my value. So I'm not saying don't be productive. I'm not saying don't be passionate and get stuff done and do all that good stuff.
And if you feel called to go do something really big, if you feel like you have this dream in your heart and it's...
Check your list off today.
Nobody's saying we wish, that Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King and whoever else you mentioned, that they didn't, do the right thing by living a big life. But that was meant for them. But back to what is yours to do.
There may be a deeper thing going on with your checklist.
That's right.
That your checklist, and when I didn't get all my stuff on my checklist and I only got 3
now
out of
I feel like a
8,
failure.
Now I'm going back to questioning my own value.
Right.
If I as a human being can't even get these 8 things done today that I set out to do, what does that say about my value?
That's so good.
Right? So again, these are deeper mind, will, emotion, soul type things that you got to wrestle to the ground. Otherwise, what am I doing? I'm laying there on day 2 of my vacation, or I'm on my day off, and I have this deep gnawing sense that I can't fully explain. It's this visceral feeling that I can't fully articulate here. Like I don't understand, why do I feel compelled? And it's actually, if you go deeper, it's my sense of value is connected to my productivity. Why is my sense of value my productivity? Because it gives me some sort of tangible receipt that I'm valuable because I got this stuff done. If you can find that value in something deeper than that, in your identity and who you are in Christ, in who God says you are, in all this, now I'm still productive, but I'm not obsessive about it because my value is already clear in my mind. I'm clear about it.
Yep.
So
now it truly
this
is just about the work.
Yeah, this isn't like listen to a podcast and now I flip a switch and now I'm good. This is a lifelong digging. This is something that you're all the time. This is why I'm passionate about encouraging people to have these types of conversations.
Yes.
Think in this way. Find partners, find collaborators, find confidants, people that you can dig and you can do, because with every one of these discoveries, it gives you a sense of peace that all of a sudden you go, wow, I'm getting emotional energy back. Mm-hmm. Okay. So
you're untangling knots that provide you so much more freedom when you continue to have this conversation in an ongoing way and you continue to dig into these things in your own mind. You're going to peel back layers that just give you a better and a better and a better life. And thank you for pointing out that it's not a one-time thing. Mm-mm. You listen to it and absorb it and somehow now you've just flipped a switch, or I have this conversation one time and now it's better. It's like, no, keep exploring these spaces because you will keep finding more and more that makes it better and better for you.
Yep. All right. So let me get this complete thought out and then you respond to it.
I'll wait.
Okay. So we talked, I think, a few weeks ago, something about introvert, extrovert, ambivert, that whole thing, right?
You couldn't come up with the word.
Yeah. Well, I did come up with it, and you shot it down, but I was
correct.
No,
ambivert. I'm saying ambivert wasn't the word I was looking for.
It actually was. We can talk to the producer. I mean, I
wouldn't
want to lay you out in front of the world.
Hold on, one more thing.
Yep.
I know what an ambivert is. What I was talking about, though, is not someone who gets some social energy from both things. It's someone who is like gregarious in a social situation, but still not necessarily drawing energy from it.
So that's just someone. That's someone with social skills, I guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I know, but there's another word for that.
Yeah, I don't want to get derailed here.
Keep going.
You're right.
Ride the wave.
Okay.
Nope.
So
ride the wave.
Okay. So let me real quick for those who haven't been following or are unaware. So introversion, extroversion, if you study it, those words may not be what you think they mean. So normally people hear extrovert, they think a person who is social or socially skilled.
Correct.
They hear introvert, they hear someone who doesn't talk a lot.
Shy.
Isn't in social settings. But that's not how it's defined. It's defined in how you recuperate energy.
Exactly.
So for example, I have a guy in my life, a friend who doesn't talk a lot, but loves to be around people, mm-hmm. right? One of our buddies, like Aaron Watchman. Mm-hmm. Aaron isn't super verbal. He's very quiet. He's not effusive at all in his expressions, but Aaron is he's with people.
Super social
He's
dude.
with people a lot. Now, he might be in the group and not say 2 words. And if you try to get him to talk, he might not really talk that much. Like, I mean, Aaron's one of our dear friends, and I've never really heard him go on and on. He doesn't waste any words, right? Mm-hmm. So someone might think he's an introvert, but he's not. He likes being around people. Mm-hmm. On the other side, some people that you might see who can really work a room, they might be the class clown. They may be really, really good socially. They make friends easily, blah, blah, blah. Bunch of those, surprise, are introverts. Mm-hmm. They've become socially skilled, but when it comes to like, how do they restore themselves?
Yes.
They restore themselves in solitude.
Yeah.
Right? Being alone.
Right.
Okay. Here's where it gets tricky. Where it gets tricky is based on the context of your life. So if you're a leader of any kind, if you are in charge of people, if you're a manager, if you're a go-to person, you're around people a lot, what happens is people, in some ways, even though you may very much care about them, start to become people who want something from you. They're about to ask you for something. As a leader, a lot of times people want something from you, and it's not even bad. It's not like they've got, twisting their mustache and they've got bad motives. Mm-hmm. They might want you to pay attention to them. They might want you to listen to their story. They may want you to give them advice. They may want you to put your brain on their problem. Whatever it is, they want something from you. You're being watched. So a lot of times leaders start to conclude, for me to rest, I have to go into solitude. I have to go be by myself. Ambivert would be somewhere on the spectrum between intense extrovert, intense introvert. So think of that spectrum. The extrovert is like, I always have to be with people all the time. That's how I get energy. We know people like that. Mm-hmm. Other introvert is, I'm a total homebody. I really don't like to be with people at all. I'd like to just be with me and a book, and don't talk to me. The ambivert is somewhere in the middle. Sometimes I like to be with people, sometimes I don't, blah, blah, blah. And again, it's a spectrum.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do fall in that.
Most people.
Yeah.
Most people, pretty much everybody, falls somewhere in there. But again, you're ambivert. If you're dead set in the middle, half the time I like to be with people, half the time I don't. So to my point, if you are somebody who, because of your lot in life or because of your responsibilities that you have, people have started to represent need for you.
Yes.
You then, and I can speak for myself, there was a season of time where I then, in order to rest, I went and got alone. Mm-hmm. And when I got alone, because I'm an ambivert of some sort, probably.
You lean more towards extroversion.
Yeah, I would say my nature is leaning towards extroversion. Mm-hmm. But I'm not huge social appetite guy. I don't need 100 people around me. A lot of times it's like one friend.
Right.
Okay?
Correct.
But all that to say, I don't like to be alone necessarily, but what I was doing is I was going and being alone to rest, but I wasn't resting, I was hiding.
Yeah. Ooh.
I was hiding.
Yeah. Unpack it.
So because I was by myself, and it took me a long time to discover this. Mm-hmm. When I was by myself, instead of feeling rested, I felt relief at first, like, whew.
Because all the needs were lifted off.
Nobody's talking to me. Nobody's asking me for anything. Right. I'm by myself. Whew. And after I exhaled,
then you were lonely.
And got my coffee, I start twiddling my thumbs. And I start fidgeting. I'm mm-hmm. fidgety. I'm not resting. Some of it in one season was related to feeling probably over important about my work, and I got the weight of the world and all this, and if I'm not working today, nobody's working, and the world needs me. Okay, so there was that. But also, because I have extroverted tendencies, extroverted needs, I was trying to rest like an introvert. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't working. Okay, so what now? Well, you got to find friends that you don't have to overthink it. You don't have to measure your words. They don't want anything from you. One of the litmus tests for me is like, could you ride 5 minutes in the car with this person and not say anything and it not be awkward?
That's a good one.
That is a good one. Because normally, like, if you got somebody who you don't really know that much, when it goes quiet, you feel awkward. Like, okay, we need to fill this space a little bit. So it's like, hey, man, tell me more about, you're trying to make conversation, but there's labor in that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so all that to say, do I have to measure my words? Is this a gracious person in my life that if I'm externally processing something or something, I say something, whatever that wasn't fully calculated, they're not going to now
come to hard opinions about
me.
You. Right.
Okay, hold it against me, go tell everybody what I said, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now here's another one, dude. Now, I'm going to round out the thought, and then I'm going to pitch it your way.
All right.
Back to the brain, okay, mind, will, emotion. Mm-hmm. Most of my life, I played sports. So sports for me would be a good leisure activity. Right? At this point, I'm not putting on a helmet and going out and hitting people. But like racquetball, ping pong, okay, tennis, golf. And what I realized was when I was doing those type of activities that should have been leisure activities, which would be good, I'm engaging with a friend, mm-hmm. and I'm doing an activity. This should be resting me, but it wasn't. And I couldn't figure out why.
Okay.
And I figured it out.
And it is?
Because the first 23 years of my life, sports were about identity and competition.
Ooh, okay.
So to this day, if I compete with someone in a sport, I have anxiety.
Okay.
I can't just lose and be fine with it.
Okay.
If we're playing racquetball, okay, which I played racquetball with a bunch of friends, I have to win.
Okay.
Yeah. If I lose, I'm embarrassed. I'm frustrated. I'm mad. Now, I'm classy enough at this point to go,
you're not going to throw your
good
racket.
Game, bro.
Yeah, of course. But internally.
Bro, I'm ticked.
Yeah.
I'm ticked. And when I'm driving there on the way, I feel some anxiety like, I don't want to lose today.
Wow.
If I go play golf and I play crappy, it bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, dude, I just wasted time and money playing like an idiot. Now this other guy probably doesn't ever want to play with me again because I just hacked up this stinking course. And I'm mad at myself because, doggone it, if all this Bible reading and all this preaching and all this devotional time and all this external processing, if I don't still have some identity issues around competition, winning, being a winner, and especially being and appearing competent with athletics. You know how many times I've been asked to play pickleball? And I'm like, I don't want to play pickleball.
Yeah.
Now, would I like playing pickleball? Yeah, dude.
You probably
I got
would.
really into badminton when I was 17. I like racquetball. I like tennis.
This is new
I like all this
information
stuff.
for me.
I like all this stuff. You didn't know?
I did not know this. I love this.
Badminton, dude. I got real into it for a semester. Okay.
So you keep learning new things about your spouse forever.
But no joke. When we first moved here, right, I was golfing because I was working at a golf course and I got to play a lot of golf.
Yeah.
And then when I wasn't able to do that, we couldn't afford really for me to play a lot of golf. So I picked up tennis because it was a lot cheaper. And so I was playing tennis with people, but I was feeling anxiety going to play tennis. I'm like, I don't want to lose to this guy.
Yeah.
I couldn't just enjoy the competition. Why? Now, it is a perfect thing for me to do for leisure. Mm-hmm. I'm not alone. I'm playing with a friend.
Activity. Yeah.
There's really nothing on the line.
No.
How many racquetball games have I won? I have no idea. How many have I lost? No clue.
Yeah.
Did any of it matter? Not even a little bit.
No.
But in my head, because of my mind and because of the unhealthy connection to competition and sport, this activity that should be the perfect leisure activity because I am competent athletically. I am coordinated. I am talented in that way. It's something I'm good at. So to do something I'm good at with somebody that I like with nothing really on the line, no actual pressure, I was applying all the pressure to myself because that's what I learned in my first 23 years.
That's so good.
And here I am at 43, still have a hard time letting go of it. To this day, when I go play golf, I feel some anxiety. If I get up and duff this drive right off the gate, I hit it straight in the woods, I'm going to be ticked off. Why, bro? You're 43. You're a 43-year-old pastor, father, man. It doesn't stinking matter. You're not good at golf.
Yeah.
It's not about that. The guy you're playing with is probably going to beat you. It doesn't matter. Enjoy the company of this guy. Be able to put that down. So again, that's like 20-year lesson.
Yeah.
That for some reason, like it was so embedded. When I say it now, it's clear as day. But it was so embedded in my life, I couldn't see it that clearly. Mm-hmm. To weave this back to the point of rest, there are certain activities tailored for people, whether it's taking a walk. How come when I take a walk, I can't rest? Because I'm still wrestling with my value as a human being, and this walk isn't necessarily productive. And when I do it, I'm wondering whether either to myself I don't feel valuable or the people around me. I'm not sure if they value me if I'm not getting my 8 things done. Therefore, I took this walk. I feel self-indulgent. It feels, okay, like my value's going down. So I can't do this thing I love to do. Mm-hmm. If it's sports, golf, whatever, again, speaking for myself, it should be an activity that would bring me a great amount of relief. But unfortunately, it holds a space in my head that's connected to performance anxiety or personal identity. Mm-hmm. And if I don't figure all that out, now some of these things that would totally tee up to my ambiversion and could really add value to my life and have me come back. I mean, dude, there are a lot of times I've come back from golfing in a worse mood than when I went in.
Yeah.
Really tired. Like, you're like, how'd you play? I had about 3 good drives, and I played like garbage. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm in this, so I'm not resting. This is all in a conversation about rest. So I think your rest starts in your brain. It starts in your mind. And that mind affects my emotion, how I think. If I could get clear on this, it will affect my emotions, which will affect my will. Okay. And now what I do with my body, whether it's going and finding a place of just totally laying on a beach, or something that you're taking in with your eyes. I'm going to the mountains, and I just want to get these cool sights, and I want to just, sit in a hot tub, and I want to just do a bunch of nothing. Or if I want to find an activity that I like to explore new spaces and do new things. And there's something in your head, if you're struggling to rest, there's something in your head that's causing those activities to be offset a little bit with something in your mind, will, and emotions, in your heart and your mind. So I think that exploration, the more clarity you get there, it will start to result in less energy coming out of you emotionally, so you'll feel less depleted. And then some of those activities, you may get a better return on investment in those things that you're doing, either with people or by yourself, and probably result in a more rested human being.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Like 50. I think you actually just started leading into something that I think holds a lot of value for people, which is actually identifying what is restful for you. Because, right, like so far we've talked about all the things that could be obstacles to you being able to rest, right? So how do you eliminate some of these things within your identity, within your mind and the way you think about things? And now let's switch over into the space of, okay, so I've eliminated some of the obstructions. Now what? Because now I'm, I got some of those things out of my head. I'm not feeling like the world is falling apart while I'm laying on this beach, but also I'm kind of laying on this beach and it's not doing anything for me. Okay. I think that's important to touch on. So everyone rests differently. That was another realization that I think is powerful that you and I have had over time, is we would take some time off and, maybe we'd have a couple days and we were at home and we were just chilling and we weren't really doing anything. And it's like, all right, well, I should feel rested, but honestly, I just kind of feel like lethargic. I don't feel good, Well, for us, we realized we're kind of more active rest kind of people. We like to go do something, and so we started talking about, okay, what do we do during those times? And that's not for everybody. I'm not saying everybody needs to go, hiking to relax. Like maybe you truly are a nap person, or you're just a go lay down person. There are certainly times, that we'll go lay down, read a book, do some, but we are in general the type of people that we are going to come back more rejuvenated if we actually did something in that time. So spend some time exploring that. And if you're in a relationship, you're in a family, I would explore the other people in your family too, because you may have one of you that is I really just want to chill person, and the other person that's going, I actually want to schedule a vacation where we have an itinerary every day, to do things. And so finding a good place where everybody's coming back rested and having enjoyed it. And that's obviously just specifically a vacation episode or example. But that is applicable to all kinds of things. And so for you, what are some things that you have found that are specifically rejuvenating for you compared to what maybe you used to do? Mm-hmm. Just to kind of turn that to you.
Yeah, so things like golf, right, for me would be one. Or again, if I've got a couple friends that I can play with, that I really just enjoy their company, and especially if it's a beautiful day, beautiful course, to be out there. At this point, I've accepted that I'm a bad golfer. I used to be an abomination on the golf course, and I worked hard to just be bad. But to embrace
someday you might get all the way up to mid.
I might be average. Yeah, I might be. That's the goal. No, but all that to say, like, I enjoy that with the right people. Here's another one. Probably my most rested is being with you, at going out to dinner, or having some kind of activity, going to a show, going to something I know we'll both enjoy that will cause a conversation that we can kind of, even if we're not talking, we're kind of looking at each other like, that was cool. We can whisper or something like. So that to me is number one. I have another thought, but I want to hear from you. What are yours?
Yeah, I think definitely like the time just hanging out with you is very restorative for me. I'm not generally a big like restore with people kind of person. I do need at least some time alone too, so that's another one. It's interesting that you said like taking a walk. Like for me, being able to go walk alone somewhere in nature especially, or like go take a walk at night somewhere where it's like, I haven't done that in a very long time, but I used to do that all the time. Honestly, probably to a degree that was kind of stupid and irresponsible. In college, I would like go at 2 a.m. and take a walk downtown. Probably not smart. Not downtown Columbus, but where I grew up. But like the fact that the rest of the world was asleep and it was so peaceful and quiet, and you could be out experiencing, this just very calm. You hear animals in trees, and you just notice things, and you have a chance to like center your breath and really just get a little more connected. I'm not somebody that naturally tends to be really good at being present in my own body, and feeling connected to it. I kind of live in my head. And so whereas for you, you're naturally feeling very connected in your own body as an athlete, right? And so for me, those are the types of activities that help me kind of feel more like centered and whole. And another one that I've tried to start slowly introducing back into my life a little bit through like different classes and stuff is like dance and things like that. That's something that helps me feel more centered and connected and creative. I love, as far as like a hobby type activity, I absolutely love coming up with something creative and making it out of nothing. And just kind of conceptualizing how it's going to come together and making something that's so fun for me, to just go like, it was just this idea and then ta-da, it's real. Like that's a fun experience.
So here I have something, I don't even know if I'd call it a theory at this point. It might be amusing, and I don't know that either of us will have the answer to it, but I think it's kind of interesting. So like you've said before, hey, it would be super relaxing, Greg, if you would take our children, leave our house, and then
this
you're
makes
like,
me sound so terrible. Like saying,
not at
can
all.
You guys just go?
Not at all. I don't think there's a mom in the world who hasn't.
Okay, that's fair.
Found a
Everybody
blessing.
Gets overstimulated at some point.
Dude.
All right.
But if you're like, and I was about to really speak well of you.
Okay, all right. I'll shut up. I appreciate you.
Because it's like, Greg, if you'll take the children and you'll exit, I would actually really love to just clean the house by myself.
Yeah, that's true.
With no one
creating
one in it. More crumbs, undoing what I just did.
Asking me a
and
question.
And I know when they get home, they will. I don't care. I just want to be able to clean it myself. And I'm like, well, honey, we'll help you clean. I don't want any help cleaning.
No, I don't.
I'd like to just clean it myself. And it actually would be quite relaxing to do, right?
It would actually.
Is that true?
Yes, that's very true.
Okay. So here's my thing. What you would probably do would be to do that, and then you would put in your AirPods.
Yes.
And you would listen to someone talk.
That's correct.
Okay, so you'd listen to whether it was someone tell a story or people have a conversation, but you would listen to someone talk, right?
Okay.
I wonder if that is some sign of ambiversion toward extroversion, that it's like, this is like, I desire connection, even though like that person's not in the room. I'm not looking them in the eye. I feel connected to what's being said. I'm having, because when you hear two people talk, like if someone's listening to this right now, although they know they can't in their car say, hey, Shaylyn, what about this? It feels a little bit.
You can if you want.
Dialogue, right? It feels dialogue. It feels like they're in the conversation.
Right. No, that's fair.
So in a sense, like, does it give you the best of both worlds? Does it give you, I'm in a conversation, listening to adults think, and I feel connection to what they're doing, but I don't have to deal with any self-consciousness.
No one's asking me anything.
No one's asking me for anything. No one's watching me clean and say you should
They're
do it
not
differently.
asking me a question.
No one says, well, you know, they have no opinion on my appearance. All of that you're going, I'm kind of getting both. Because I wonder, with a hardcore introvert, if listening to conversations
That's
aren't
interesting.
restful. Anyway.
No, that's a good question that I don't know I have a hard answer for. I would have to spend a little time with it, but I think that is a really good question. And even just a good lead for other people exploring their reasons for why they enjoy certain things. It may lead you to, a really good nugget of clarity on something.
Because one of my leisure activities would be to listen to smart people talk about stuff. And when I say that, like, I don't mean them talking about stuff I can't understand at all. Mm-hmm. But even if it's not stuff I'm necessarily into or doing, if I had listened to smart people who communicate well, I should add that component. Smart people who aren't just talking, smart people shorthand in an area I don't understand.
Yeah.
If they're able to synthesize and communicate, even if it's not something that's necessarily my world, number one, I do get something out of it because listening to their thought patterns and their communication, I'm able to take and apply to what I do. But I do find that to be like a leisure activity I appreciate. Listen to them talk and listen to how they think. And I wonder if in some ways I'm looking for connection.
Potentially. I think for me, as I consider what I listen to, aside from 2 shows that I can think of, like podcasts, I should say, I can't think of any that I feel much connection to. We'll say 3. I can't feel much connection to the people hosting the podcast.
Suzanne Stabile, right? You would feel tremendously connected.
True.
To her. You'd hug her and cry if you met her.
Oh, definitely. But I don't know if I feel connected to her as much as I just feel incredibly grateful to her. I don't know. Maybe she can help me unpack that. She's good at that kind of thing. But I think for me, primarily, it is the gathering information piece that I enjoy so much. Because, a lot of times I'll listen to things that are not a dialogue, they're a monologue, or listen to a book or something like that. It's more about a story being told,
something being explained.
There's a couple like historical podcasts that I love, that it's super fascinating to me to hear that history, and it's not necessarily like a back and forth between people or even feeling engaged to the person telling the story. It's just I'm very engaged with the story itself. So I'm not saying that's not possible. It could be. It doesn't necessarily resonate right off the bat when I hear it. I think there are a couple that I enjoy that I feel like you feel like you kind of get to know the people because of their banter and whatever, and it's enjoyable. But I think for the most part, it's probably more just the fact that I can be cleaning. It's like the best of both worlds, right? Because I can be cleaning my house, which is bringing order out of disorder, which just feels delightful. And you're feeling productive, you're doing something, and then at the same time I'm doing something with my hands and I'm cleaning, I'm also listening and gathering more information and learning something, which I also just absolutely love.
You're joining 2 things that give you a good feeling together. It's like
connect the superpowers.
Exponential good feelings.
Explosion. So that's why that particular activity, where it was like if there was no one else in the home and I was just cleaning by myself, listening to a book or a podcast or something like that, is like, chef's kiss.
I think probably 2 people who are wired a little bit differently could do the same activity and get some of the same things out of it and some different things out of it.
Definitely.
Like you said, I might maybe, as I'm listening to somebody talk, I'm getting information, they're challenging my thoughts, I'm getting to surf that idea, that thought, but also I'm feeling a human connection.
For sure.
Not that I'm bonding with
I
that
understand
person,
what you mean.
but I am feeling a human connection. And again, that might meet a need, and I might need that more than you do, or vice versa, or whatever. But anyway, as you were talking, it made me think about that. Like, in this crazy world we live in now, where you have so much content and information and streaming and all these platforms, it's probably, I don't know, I find it interesting to go, what am I getting out of that? I would have had to get it differently. You joined a book club, or you to try to find some group to do this or that, which groups, that's still great. And it's very useful and helpful. And but I wonder if it might be worth thinking about, maybe even the thing you're trying to get from those digital connections. If it's not doing it for you, it might be worth going over here and going, hey, I'm going to add a human component. So maybe
because it isn't a substitute for friendships. I agree. You do still need that. Even as an introvert, you still need that. You don't go live isolated in a cabin in the woods, and that's like fully fulfilling. I have wonderful friends in my life. But you know what? We don't talk on the phone a lot, but we text all the time. Because that's more my style. And we get together a few times a year. And you know what? It does really fill my cup to spend that day or two with them in a certain context and whatever. I love that. So it's not that I just despise people. It's just that in general, if I did too much of that, it would be particularly draining.
By the way, let me just, and I'm not trying to pick on you or whatever, but I think that what you just said there, it's not that I despise people. I feel like I hear introverted or people that shade toward introversion say that a lot. And I feel like that's like a false guilt. Like, no, you don't despise people. I mean, somebody could, but it's like, no. And I think sometimes people feel bad because you'll hear them all the time make self-deprecating jokes about how much, I'm a jerk. I don't like people. Or, people think I don't like people. It's like, you didn't wire yourself.
No.
There's a spectrum of people that recuperate in public, in groups, and people that recuperate in solitude. Jesus picked solitude a lot. Who knows what he was? But my point is, I think sometimes that becomes a bit of a mark on someone's self perspective, their view of themselves. Like, well, I don't hate people. I don't despise people. Of course you don't. It's about how you recuperate, and you don't need to feel any shame about that. You don't need to feel any guilt about that. You didn't pick that. You weren't born and somebody handed you an iPad where you could pick, you want to be an introvert or extrovert? I want to be this. Do you want to be tall or short? I want to be this. Do you want to be, no, that was handed to you.
I think you're right. I do think a lot of introverts, for a couple different reasons, struggle with that a little bit. Number one, I think sometimes we feel guilty because we know it. Sometimes people don't understand it. It does make them perceived. It doesn't, and it makes other people feel, people feel bad. Like, some people will be offended and a little hurt that you didn't recharge by spending time with them. Like you said, I wouldn't choose that.
They feel rejected.
Yep. And so that feels terrible because you're not trying to hurt people. Or that you think
you're better than them.
Yeah,
because you're not,
it's like you feel like you have to kind of like preemptively apologize, I think, for some of those tendencies, because there are the perceptions, or for some people the real experiences that they feel being with an introvert, and they feel rejected.
I think I felt that from you. I felt that from you early on, and I misread it. Like, I thought it was you were pushing me away or whatever, and it's like, Greg, it's really not personal. Yeah, like, it's not that. It really is nothing to do with, like, I don't think you're a lot of fun, or you're a great guy, or you're not like a leech in my life. No, it's just how I'm wired. I get that. Yeah,
and it's like, the reality is, if I go spend 20 minutes by myself and like get a minute to bring the noise down and whatever, then I am able to come back and actually really enjoy our time together. If I don't do that, then I might just totally not be able to engage with you because my tank is totally empty.
You go, sure, Greg, let's go out together, or let's do this and that, and the whole time you're running on empty, and now I'm offended for a different reason, right? Like, dude, you're a little less
you're a little dry, man.
Tonight.
It's like, that's so good, Greg, that you brought that up, because I think that's probably a freeing thing for introverts to realize, like, no, you're not a bad person. You need to let that go. Like, that's just how you're wired, and you can't change that. It is what it is. And then it's probably really good conversation, I think, for some introvert extrovert couples, maybe, to have that conversation, because, or even just within friendships, you know, because it's like, you're not rejecting that person. It's not that you don't care. It's just that your social appetite may be different. The way that you recharge may be different. And we shouldn't be offended by each other, you know. I mean, you can see it on the flip side sometimes, where an introvert may just want to, you know, stay home and have a night in with just you. And the extrovert's like, but I want to go be with a bunch of people and like and you're like, I'm not good enough. No, it's not that. It's just that they recharge by all of that social energy. And so, you know, meet each other in the middle somewhere. I'm really glad that you opened up some of those questions, even what you asked me about the podcast, because I think those types of questions, the more that people can ask themselves things like that, it will like reveal little clues all along the way. It's like a little trail of breadcrumbs, right? That are going to lead you to this place that you go, oh my gosh, like, I understand myself so much better. I understand you so much better. This is so cool. And you get so much freedom from that. I cannot stress that enough, just how valuable that pursuit is because of the freedom that you find at the other end. Final thoughts?
I don't think so. I think it was a good conversation. I'm excited to think on it, sleep on it.
And it was so good. I ended up tongue-tied towards the end. So we just need to, I think that's our signal to be done. She's talked out. Well, I'm excited to have a couple weeks of rest with you. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be great.
Sounds good.
By the time everybody's listening to this, we're probably going to be doing some of these specific things we talked about today. Listen to a book, read, take a nap, take a walk, take a drive. And we hope you all are able to find your balance and find your rest and do the same thing. So we love you, and I love you.
Love you too.
And we'll see y'all later.